Hi, I'm Manny and welcome to Every Run Counts. Now we've got spring marathon season fast approaching and a lot of people are asking what is the best marathon shoe? This will be my fourth marathon with my personal best being set at Manchester last year. There you can see me just about creeping over the line in Manchester with a 2:55.35. Now back to the shoes. Now out of the goodness of my own heart, I've bought three of the best marathon shoes on the market at the moment, which I will be testing and putting through their paces to see which would be the best for me and also possibly for you. Now let's meet the contenders. Number 1, Puma Fast R Nitro Elite 3. And number 2, Asics Metaspeed Sky Tokyo. And number 3, I'll wait for this one, the Nike Air Zoom Alphafly Next Percent 3. What is it with the names of these shoes? Getting longer and longer. So now for the scientific-ish test. You're going to do 10 minutes in each shoe on the treadmill. I'm going to do that twice. And the order's going to be Nike, then the Puma, then the Asics. We're going to put the Brooks in the middle as a kind of control to see them against a regular shoe. Then we're going to do Asics, Puma, and Nike. I'm going to warm up in the Brooks. I'm going to give myself 90 seconds to get up to pace in each shoe. Off we go with the test. Here we are then with the test. As you can see, I performed the test on the treadmill. I monitored my heart rate through my Garmin watch and an HRM strap. So that's a heart monitor to make sure that I get the best data that I can. So the idea was to go at marathon pace, but unfortunately my treadmill doesn't quite get up to that pace. But I did manage to get it to a speed where I felt like I was working a little bit, and it was doing the shoes justice. I could feel a genuine difference at that pace, and I didn't seem to be holding them back at all. First off, we've got the Alphafly. Now these are a very popular shoe for marathon running, and I have indeed myself run marathon in these before, and they work very well. What I will say is that I felt the AirPods today, I felt them very prominent, and I could feel like I was having to concentrate on making sure I hit them, which made me struggle to actually get comfortable initially. Once I got into a rhythm, they were really good, but early on, I felt myself having to work to make sure I actually hit the AirPods, and they felt very prominent. But once I got going, they felt really good. Next, we've got the Pumas. Now, compared to the Nike, I found they were chalk and cheese, so I just felt like I was rolling onto the forefoot. They were forcing me forward. They were quite aggressive, but they were also really comfortable, really light. I just felt like I was clicking along quite nicely. The one thing I would say is that they're not massively stable. I do have a tendency to pronate, so I was having to concentrate on making sure I was keeping my feet in the right position. But when I did that, I was going along beautifully, really good. Then next up we've got the Asics. Now these were really comfortable. It's the first time I put them on. I'm straight out of the box. They were just comfortable and I was just cruising along. I can remember at one point thinking to myself, oh, I could run in these forever. Now probably not quite forever, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you just get a shoe that just feels great on your foot. They didn't feel aggressive. I didn't feel like I was running particularly quickly, but as I know, I was running at the same speed as I was with all the other shoes. So it's just, sometimes you just get one of those shoes that goes on your foot and it just works for you. Lastly, we've got the Brooks. Now, after running in all these shoes, it was really interesting to run in these. Now, they weren't, from a heart rate point of view, it wasn't hugely different. It was higher, but it wasn't a lot higher. But what I found is, as I got further into the run, it got harder. So initially, it was fine, but as I got further into the run, it got harder and harder. And I wouldn't say struggling, but I wouldn't have wanted to run too much longer. As you can see, my heart rate towards the end is getting up towards the 140s. So my initial rankings based on feel, this is just purely how I felt when I got off the treadmill. It'll probably be no surprise that I'll go with number 1 as being the Asics, just felt really good, really smooth. I feel like I've run a good marathon in those. Number 2 has to be the Nike. Although they felt a bit mechanical, once I got into a rhythm, I really felt like I could hold that for a marathon. Whilst the Puma felt like they were as fast as the Asics, I just feel like they were a bit too unstable for me, and I'd worry about my form later on in the marathon, just holding that pace. So then going into the data, I try not to bore you too much with all of this, but ultimately the bottom line is that the Puma and the Asics were very similar in terms of the average heart rate and the max heart rate, with the max heart rate just being ever so slightly lower in the Asics. The Nike, you can see in the first run that I did have trouble, as I said, getting the mechanics right on it. But once I did, it was fine. So I think that will definitely have affected the first run. And it did come down a little bit in the second, but still a little bit worse than the other two. In terms of cadence, again, all very similar. Noticeably less in the Puma, but again, it's not a huge difference. And then if you have a look at the control, the Brooks down at the bottom, the average heart rate is higher. and max heart rate being the same as the night. I think that kind of gives us the data that we need to say that, you know, between the Asics and the Puma, there's very little to choose. Now we're going to talk you through a little bit about fit and the feel of each of the shoes, starting with the Alpha Fly. So booty fit, really good laces. I managed to get a lockdown quite nicely in this. There's a fair bit of structure to the heel. I get no rub in there or anything like that. Running outside with them in the rain as well, I find that the air pods aren't quite as pronounced. So it was obviously a bit exacerbated by the treadmill. Actually, I hit them, once I get going again, I do hit them quite nicely. There's decent grip on the bottom as well with these. Yeah, they're just a really good shoe. I definitely could recommend for the marathon. So moving on to the Puma. Now these are noticeably lighter. You can feel when you put them on your feet, you really feel like there's almost nothing going on there. There's not a lot in terms of tongue and upper, but it is comfortable. You know, it's light, it's comfortable, and I actually found getting them on really easy. Cinch the laces down very quickly. But again, the problem that I find is when I get a bit tired, I start to move my foot in a little bit, and I'd be very worried towards the end of a marathon whether that would really be good for me and whether I might be looking at, you know, my form really degrading and it not going very well. From what I can tell, these would definitely be really good for the 5K. I'm really looking forward to having to go in the 5 or 10K with these. But anything above that, I think I might struggle with my running form the way it currently is. Okay, so moving on to the Asics. These, you know, felt brilliant when they're on. Again, there's not a lot to them, not a lot to the upper, very light. Not quite as light as the Puma, but not far off. I did have a little bit of an issue getting a lockdown, so it took me a few goes to actually get the laces right, but once I got them right, it worked really well. I wouldn't have any issues with running a marathon in this, I don't think, but I will need to obviously do a long run in these to make sure that there's no issues that weren't picked up in the short amount of time that I was running before. So a couple of weeks' time, I'll do a good marathon pace session, but as it stands, looking very good. So the shoe I'll be lacing up for the Newport Marathon is the Asics Metaspeed Sky Tokyo. Now throughout the testing it went really well. I've done a couple of runs outside in it as well just to make sure the tread and things are fine in the rain, passed with flying colours. I will be doing one long run in the next couple of weeks or so, so unless anything goes really bad there, I'll be lacing this one up. Now, did I make the right decision? Please leave your answers in the comments and remember to like and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next time.